Perang Dunia Kedua di Asia berakhir apabila Jepun secara rasmi menyerah kalah pada 15 Ogos 1945. Lebih 100,000 orang awam dan askar terkorban di Melaya sepanjang 3 tahun pendudukan Jepun. Ramai yang mati akibat kekejaman tentera Jepun. Kawat maut Sandakan yang menelan korban jiwa 2,428 askar Australia dan British adalah antara yang paling kejam dalam sejarah.
But it was worse in some ways than the Holocaust. But here, there was this prolonged killing over weeks and weeks and weeks, where they were one by one, group by group, being killed off. So they knew what was happening, and it was done in this agonisingly inefficient and very traumatic way. And you just saw this very ugly side of humanity.
Di Australia, berita tragedi perang di Sandakan hanya mulai diketahui beberapa bulan setelah perang berakhir. Beratus-ratus telegram seperti ini mula dikirimkan kepada keluarga anggota tentera yang dilaporkan hilang di Borneo.
A family would receive a telegram saying, your loved one is believed to be a prisoner of war. That was it. And then they would find out later on the prisoner of war was in Borneo, and they might get a postcard at some stage, a year or two later. And then in 1945 they started to get information that this loved one was not going to return. Initially it was very vague, and then became, over the course of 2 or 3 different telegrams from the government, it would become more definite. And at the end they would say, so-and-so died on such and such a date of dysentery or whatever near Ranau. And that would be the information, and that was the final thing.
Non Catwagon datang ke Sandakan untuk memberi penghormatan terakhir kepada ayahnya, Alwyn Douglas Carrigan, yang terkorban di sini. Dia masih ingat bagaimana ibunya mengalami trauma yang berlarutan kerana kematian ayahnya yang tidak dapat dipastikan selama beberapa tahun.
She received 3 different death certificates, one for October 1944, one for February 1945, but he actually died on the march at the 18 mile on June the 3rd, 1945. It was very hurtful because she had arranged a celebration party in December, the homecoming. Obviously there was no homecoming.
Tapi mengapakah kerajaan Australia mengambil masa begitu lama untuk mendedahkan butir-butir terperinci tragedi perang kawat maut Sandakan?
I think it's a combination of the scope of the tragedy and just the difficulty in finding out and establishing the truth as to what actually happened. From the 2,500 Australian British prisoners who were sent to Sandakan, only 6 eventually survived. So it's a phenomenal number of loss. And with those 6 people, they could only really tell their stories, the stories of their friends. So many other people, we don't really know what happened to them or to their fates.
Korban jiwa sebenar kawat maut Sandakan hanya mula terbongkar setelah perbicaraan jenayah perang berakhir pada 1946. 8 orang pegawai askar Jepun dihukum bunuh kerana didapati bersalah melakukan jenayah perang. Antara mereka ialah Kapten Hoshijima Susumi, komandan kem tahanan Sandakan. Adalah tahanan perang pertama yang pulang ke pangkuan keluarga di Australia pada 7 Ogos 1945. Sehari setelah bom atom digugurkan di kota Hiroshima yang menyebabkan Jepun menyerah kalah beberapa hari kemudian. Tapi sekembalinya ke Australia, dia diberitahu oleh para doktor dia hanya berupaya hidup 2 bulan lagi akibat cedera parah yang dialaminya sewaktu dalam tahanan.
It's interesting, of the 6 survivors, they had different, they were very different men, and they had different priorities. My father's priorities on his return were firstly to write letters of comfort to the relatives. So he wrote a bit over 100 and visited as many people as he could. As any addresses, any people he knew, he wrote to the relatives.
Keluarga non-Cadogan adalah antara mereka yang menerima surat daripada Braithwaite sejurus setelah perang berakhir.
And one of the things which I found in my mother's material was a letter from Braithwaite about my father, which was very, very soothing and reassuring, because he said, "I remember Taffy well," and that's the nickname for Welshman. And it was such a reassuring and comforting letter.
Yang berbahagia Puan Ketika, saya memahami apa yang anda rasakan sekarang ini, dan saya ingin membantu apa saja yang dapat saya lakukan. Pertama sekali, izinkan saya mengucapkan salam takziah dari saya dan keluarga. Saya kena rapat dengan Tafi, dan anda harus berbangga dengan beliau kerana beliau adalah orang yang sangat baik.
Surat-surat yang ditulis Braithwaite membantunya mengubati trauma yang dialami sewaktu dalam tahanan. Bagaimanapun, penderitaan yang dialaminya itu meninggalkan kesan psikologi yang mendalam pada dirinya, walaupun setelah bertahun-tahun kembali ke Australia.
Yeah, he was in such bad shape. Such a colossal assault on the body that had gone on. They were in the midst of the most terrible nightmares. I mean, my father would wake in the night and he would say, "Oh, there's bugs in the bed," and they'd have to strip down the bed. There were no bugs, but he would say, "Look at the sores. You've had the psychosomatic bites." He would have nightmares where he tried to strangle my mother. My mother had to roll out of bed. He would be trying to strangle the Japanese, and so it was a terrible, terrible time.
Upacara peringatan seperti ini adalah penting kerana ia membantu keluarga mententeramkan jiwa dan menerima hakikat tragedi perang di Sandakan.
The ceremonies allow people to meet others who have the same experience. They allow people to cry a bit, and at these sort of events, people do a lot of crying, and that's good. They want to understand, and it's a long process. A lot of people still hate the Japanese. Now that is something that is part of the healing as well. You have to get past that. My father knew that hate was a pretty destructive thing, personally. It probably saved his life in 1945, it gave him energy and anger to keep going, but you had to get rid of it. And he took perhaps 40 years to do that.
Hari ini, tragedi kawat maut Sandakan diabadikan di Tugu Peringatan Kundasang yang terletak di kaki Gunung Kinabalu. Dengan harapan, pengorbanan mereka demi memperjuangkan kedamaian dan kemerdekaan akan terus dikenal selama-lamanya oleh rakyat Australia dan Malaysia.